Hey everybody, I'm Rick Beato. On today's episode, we're going to talk about voice leading using modal interchange. What we're going to do is we're going to take a simple progression. It's going to be a 2, 5, 1, 6. I'm going to do it in the key of B flat, so it'll be a C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7 to G7. When I use the term modal interchange, it means I'm going to borrow a chord from a different key to use in place of the one that normally would be there. For example, in B flat major, my 2 chord is C minor 7, and Dorian would be the mode that would accompany that chord. If I used modal interchange, I would maybe use Aeolian, a chord from the C Aeolian scale, which is from a completely different key. That would be from the key of E flat major, as opposed to from B flat major. So it's one key in a flat direction. And it's there to provide color, harmonic color, other than the ones that might normally be there. Now, I might use some of the ones that are there. For example, Dorian to Mixolydian to Ionian to dominant diminished. That could be your order of modes. But what I want to do is I want to pick specific notes as an exercise, and I want to voice lead the voices so that I can either keep a common tone on the top or move at a half step. In this exercise, move it a half step down to accommodate whatever the new scale is. And I'm going to tell you what the scales are. So I'm going to actually start with the note A at the top of the chords. The A is going to be at the top of the C minor 7 chord. Okay, well, the A is the 6th, so it's going to give you some type of a Dorian sound. So I'm going to pick a voicing like this. This is what I would call a C Dorian voicing. I have the 6, flat 7, flat 3rd, and the 6 there. Now, I'm going to voice lead this to an F7 chord. I'm going to go to a flat 7 interval in the bass and go to this chord here. So I have F, E flat in the bass, which is a standard way to voice a jazz voicing. And then I have a D major triad in the right hand. I've got A, D, F sharp, A, which gives me an F13 flat 9 sound. Now, since this is a 10th sound, because it's from the dominant diminished scale, I'm going to want to go to another 10th sound, or at least I'd like to in this one. So I'm going to go to this sound next, which would be A major over B flat. So this is my substitute for my B flat major 7 chord. It's really out of the tonic diminished scale, the B flat tonic diminished scale. I could pop that voice up there and make it a B flat with the 6 and the major 7th in it and sharp 11. So then I can't leave this A at the top of the G chord. Okay, so I'm going to go to this in the left hand, G and F, that flat 7 interval, and I'm going to have to voice my chord with an A flat at the top. So I'm going to go to this chord as my G7 chord. So this would be out of the G alter dominant scale. So this note will not work on this because it's a natural 9, so I have to go to the flat 9. Okay, so let me just do that again. So here's my C minor 7. All right, going to F7, which is going to be a 13 flat 9. Going to my B flat major 7, but I'm going A major over B flat. I'm going to resolve that up. And then I'm going to move down to this for my G7 altered chord. Okay, now this note here, this A flat, I can actually keep it there when I cycle around to my C minor 7, and I can go to this for my C minor 7. Okay, this would be part of a C Aeolian scale. So this is my modal interchange here. Normally you would have C Dorian, but instead I'm letting the notes sustain so your ear can hear all those notes together, that collection of notes. So this sound, I have the natural 9 and I have the flat 6 in it. So that's a C Aeolian sound. Well, that C Aeolian sound needs to go to an F altered sound because this note, A flat, is the sharp 9. So I'm going to go to this and put the A in there, which really, that's more of what you would call a stock dominant 7, sharp 9, sharp 5 sound. So I'm going to go from here to this. And then my tonic chord, my B flat major chord, is not going to have an A flat in it because that would imply that it is a B flat 7 chord, because that's a flat 7. So I'm going to have to drop down to G. Probably going to want to go to something like this. This would give me a B flat Lydian sound, and that is more consistent with the tension of what's come before it. Now this G here, I can keep and go to my G7 altered chord, which I'm going to go to this, which is a really nice sound to me. Okay, so I've got the root, flat 7, I have the flat 9, sharp 9, sharp 5, and then the root. Okay, so let me go through that progression again. C Aeolian, then I'm going to drop down to F7, sharp 9, sharp 5, then I'm going to go to a B flat Lydian, which is really C major over B flat, and then down to G7 altered. Okay, that's altered dominant scale. That's the scale that chord comes from. The next sound I'm going to have is going to have the G at the top of the chord for the C minor 7 chord, which is the 5th. Well, I want to pick a really dissonant sound, and I'm going to take it from the C Phrygian scale. So that's going to be, I'm going to use this voicing here, which has flat 6, flat 9, flat 3rd, and the 5th. So it's out of the C Phrygian scale. Now, in order to keep that tension level the same, I can't have this G as the top of my F7 chord. I want to keep increasing tension or maintain the tension as I go towards the tonic. Okay, so I'm going to have to move down to G flat on the F7 chord, so I get that flat 9. So I'm going to go from the C minor 7, okay, Phrygian, and then I'm going to go down to this for my F7 chord. Okay, so I have the sharp 9, sharp 5, or sharp 4, I'm sorry, sharp 5, flat 9. Okay, this is a very, very dense chord sound. I want to retain that in through my tonic, so I'm going to go to this. This would be a G sus2 with a major 7th over B flat, or a B flat major 7 sharp 5 out of the B flat Lydian augmented scale. Now this F sharp is not going to work at the top of my G7 chord. Okay, so I've got my G7 chord, so I'm going to have to move it down to F, and in order to either maintain the tension with it, if I do that, I'm going to have to pick some of the altered notes like this from the G altered dominant scale. So let me go through that sequence again. I've got C Phrygian, F altered dominant to B flat Lydian augmented. Then I'm going to drop down to having the F on the top of the chord, and I'm going to play my G7 voicing like that. Now F is going to work for my C minor chord, okay, and I can go to C minor 11. So coming from the C minor 11 sound here, this F is going to be the root of my F7 chord. So I have to pick out some notes to maintain or to increase the tension towards a tonic or maintain it. I could go to an F sus, but that doesn't sound that interesting. I could go to that, and F7 with the sus4 and the 3, because that has nice tension to it. And that could very easily resolve to, once again, a B flat Lydian sound. This is C sus4 with a 3 over B flat. Okay, so I have the flat 9, sharp 4, sharp 5, and flat 7. Moving on from there, I would go down to the E flat and continue on, or I'd probably jump up the octave and continue my voicings from there until I've completed the chromatic scale down to the note A again. This is a great way to practice voice leading and modal interchange. Use your ear, figure out what scales you want to go to. If you're going to exchange the scales using a different mode, I'm going to go from Dorian, I might go to Aeolian on the C minor 7 chord, or I might go to Phrygian. On the F7 chord, I might go from Mixolydian to Mixolydian sharp 11, or dominant diminished, or altered dominant. On the B flat major 7 chord, I could go from Ionian to Lydian augmented to tonic diminished. That would be the A over B flat. On the G7 chord, I could either go from dominant diminished, with something with a flat 9, sharp 9, natural 13. Okay, that would be, in this case, that would be something like this. It would be E major. That would be a dominant diminished sound out of that scale. Or I could go to G altered. There's many different G sounds I could use to increase the tension on there or relieve the tension, no matter what you're doing. You want to increase the tension towards the tonics, though. The F to B flat is one of the tonics. That's the 5-1 cadence, but you also have the 5-1 from G7 to C minor 7. Okay, so you want to think about those. That's where we have that dominant 6 chord that is really the 5 chord in C minor. That's where you want to increase that tension and then resolve it. So that, for example, my G7 chord here, that note can either stay there or I can go to that Phrygian voicing that I talked about, or I could go to 13 flat 9 sound. I could go to this sound. But that's kind of stock sounding. I'd probably go to, that would be Aeolian or Dorian. So this is how you use modal interchange when you are voice leading. To me, the best way to do this is take a simple progression like 2, 5, 1, 6 and voice lead it. Pick a top note and start from there. Write them down, what your modes are going to be, and try and figure out sounds that work together and sound consistent in their tension. You don't want to go from a tense Phrygian sound on the C minor, because it's got that flat 2 in it, and then go to a straight G7 sus or something like that. That's not going to sound, or even just a straight G7 sound. That's not going to sound right to the ear. You want to always maintain the tension through to the tonic. That's all for now. Please subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel. If you're interested in the Beato book, which has many examples like this, you can find it on my website at www.rickbeato.com. And if you want to support the channel even more, become a member of the Beato Club. You can find the information on my website. Thanks for watching.